The dicey saga of the Embracer Group continues with the announcement that the company will be splitting into 3 separate entities. Stick around to find out what this means for the future of the gaming industry. I'm Brennan Sem for the New Wave Nerds. Let's get right into the news. Today's article is written by Wesley Yin Poole for IGN. Embracer splitting into 3 companies: Middle-earth Enterprises and Friends, Coffee Stain and Friends, and Asmodee Group. Embattled game company Embracer Group has announced its intent to split into 3 separate companies: the Asmodee Group, Coffee Stain and Friends, and Middle-earth Enterprises and Friends. Each company will be a separate publicly listed company, Embracer said. The move comes after a brutal period of restructuring that has seen hundreds of staff lose their job, multiple studios shut down, and the sale of developers including Borderlands maker Gearbox and Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic remake maker Saber Interactive. I've got an article on the Saber Interactive split a little later on, but here I just wanted to note that I'm okay with with Gearbox buying the rights to Borderlands. I'm absolutely fine. It was Take-Two bought Gearbox, and then they announced the next Borderlands game. I'm a big fan of that series. I'm glad that we're actually getting an update. Frankly, I feel like the Embracer Group just bit off more than they can chew, and now they're just selling off the parts here. Let's get back into this article to read a little bit more about this sale. The largest shareholder, controversial CEO Lars Wingefors, I believe, intends to form a new long-term ownership structure and will remain a long-term, active, committed, and supportive owner of all 3 entities, Embracer said. That's a portrait of the man himself. He looks like a Lars. I kind of like this suit, though, I'm not going to lie. I'm not crazy about the mustard pocket square, but I really like the jacket he's got going on. Sport coat, I guess? I don't know how you describe that. But look at how posh he looks with his cup of tea and his glass of water. What a gentleman. Here's the breakdown. Asmodee is a tabletop games publisher. Coffee Stain and Friends will focus on indie and A/AA premium and free-to-play games for PC, console, and mobile, and Middle-earth Enterprises and Friends will focus on AAA game development and publishing for PC and consoles, as well as the stewardship of the Lord of the Rings and Tomb Raider intellectual property. Man, I'm just going to go ahead and say here, I feel like they could have picked, names that sort of roll off the tongue a little better. Coffee Stain and Friends, it works, but it just, I don't know, it doesn't quite have the oomph. It doesn't have the punch of something that I would necessarily want to be saying all that often. I think if it was going to be just Coffee Stain, I think that sounds, it's an interesting name to go for, but it makes sense. It rolls off the tongue easily. But Coffee Stain and Friends, I don't know. Presumably Coffee Stain was one of the separate IPs or studios that they purchased, and the and Friends is a separate, comes from the amalgamation of the names of separate companies that were in this AA premium and free to play games. The one that really, I just feel like you're going for. It doesn't work, is the Middle-earth Enterprises and Friends. That's so many words. It just does not roll off the tongue at all. Middle-earth Enterprises, which was what they had named, the previous, before this restructuring, that rolls off the tongue well. But when you add the and Friends, there's just so many words. And also, it's a little bit weird because it just feels like you're focusing only on Lord of the Rings and not on any of the other stuff that is involved or included in the IPs here, which obviously Tomb Raider is listed out in this paragraph a little later on. We get a little more in depth into what they're doing, but it feels like a bit of a snub for everything that isn't Lord of the Rings. Obviously Lord of the Rings is your big money maker, right? That's the big draw of, or that was the big draw of the Embracer Group. That was probably their largest acquisition. Likely, yeah, I would have to imagine. They bought and overtook other studios. Gearbox, Saber Interactive, those were fairly big. I mean, Gearbox was moderately big still. So I don't know. I mean, I just feel like this is whoever's in. I don't know if this is the marketing department or what, but I don't. They just gotta figure out something that rolls off the tongue a little bit easier if we're gonna be talking about this, right? I'm assuming that we're gonna be getting some good titles out of these companies. We're gonna be talking about them as the years progress. I don't know. A weird nitpicky thing, I guess. Let's get back to the article here. Digging into the details, Asmodee has over 300 owned IPs, including board games Ticket to Ride, Seven Wonders, Azul, Catan. Is it Catan or Catan? I don't know. I've heard it both ways, like that song from Psych the Musical. Dobble and Exploding Kittens. We are big fans of Exploding Kittens. We've definitely played that multiple times. I know Ticket to Ride is incredibly fun, but I've just never been particularly interested in it. I'm not a big train guy, I guess. I've heard of Seven Wonders, but I'm not familiar. Catan, that's obviously like one of the most. I guess I don't know. I think I remember hearing it was one of the most popular board games of all time, but I guess I would have to fact check that. Jeez. Asmodee is currently developing licensed tabletop games based on The Lord of the Rings, Marvel, Game of Thrones, Netflix, Lego, and Star Wars, including the recently released trading card game Star Wars Unlimited. What do they mean by Netflix? Like, obviously, like, there's Netflix properties. Oh, probably Stranger Things, if I had to guess. Probably Stranger Things. Are there other huge, like, massively popular Netflix originals? I know, obviously, Three Body Problem came out not that long ago. That was one that had achieved a lot of press, and I heard that it was very good. It's absolutely on my list. I think I remember the reporting being that this show solidified Benioff and Weiss as kings of adapting the unadaptable into television programs, and I know the book is very well done as well, and so it's on my list. I don't know if I'm really feeling it right now. I don't know. Back to the article here. Coffee Stain and Friends includes Coffee Stain. Well, I guess that's probably why I vaguely remember that from my previous reading of the article. Coffee Stain, Ghost Ship, Tarsier? I don't know. Tuxedo Labs. I feel like I'm familiar. That name sounds relatively familiar. As well as THQ Nordic. Really? THQ Nordic. They've done a lot of work over the years as well. Man, I can't think of anything right now, but I know I'm very familiar with the name. THQ Nordic. Destroy All Humans. Darksiders. Oh, Darksiders is fun. Biomutant was terrible. Cannot recommend that at all. Was not fun. And this is one that when they announced it, I was super excited for it. But I recently tried it. I think maybe it isn't still, but at one point it was free to play through the PlayStation catalog, and man, not worth the amount of time it took to download. Is this all of the Trine games, I wonder, or just the fifth one? Because I really enjoyed the second one, I believe. I don't think I played the third one. The first one was all right. Let's see, a couple of Star Wars games, but not any of the good ones. Not noticing anything particularly amazing here, actually. Did I really just remember THQ Nordic from those few? Wow, I guess so. I don't know. This is another one that I really wanted to play, but I'd forgotten about it until just now, so obviously I didn't want to play it all that much. But anyways, I didn't realize that they bought THQ Nordic. Let's see. Intellectual properties include Deep Rock Galactic, Goat Simulator, Satisfactory, Wreckfest, Teardown, Valheim, part-owned, as well as more than 200 other IPs. Free-to-play operations include Easy Brain, Deca, Crazy Labs, and Cryptic. Intellectual properties, I think Cryptic is involved with that Neverwinter, the D&D MMO. Oh, well, there we go. I should just read the article. Intellectual properties include Sudoku.com, Blockudoku, and Jigsaw Puzzle. Published free-to-play games based on licensed IPs include Star Trek Online and D&D Neverwinter Online. I have tried to play both of those, and frankly, they just weren't that enjoyable. Nobody has really understood the MMO quite to the extent like Blizzard has with WoW. There's just so much replayability. The IP is so fascinating in a way that, I mean, don't get me wrong. I obviously love Star Trek. I love the universe, and I love I enjoyed the universe building that we saw in Neverwinter, but the gameplay is just not there. I don't know what it is. But these, like practically every other MMO I've played, has just not been fun. And I've tried a lot, right? I've tried plenty of the free-to-play ones, so I didn't have to continue paying my WoW subscription, which I've since canceled. But yeah, none of the other MMOs are really they're just missing something. A little bit of spice, I suppose. But let's get back to the article here. And finally, Middle-earth Enterprises and Friends will focus on the Lord of the Rings and other key IP, Embracer said. Owned studios include Crystal Dynamics, Dam Buster Studios, this is French, Eidos Montreal, Flying Wild Hog Studios, Tripwire, Vertigo Games, Warhorse Studios, and 4A Games. IPs include Dead Island, Killing Floor, I almost said Crystal Floor for some reason, Kingdom Come Deliverance, The Lord of the Rings, Metro, and Tomb Raider, among others. This group will include publisher PlayOn, Free Mode, and Dark Horse. So I do want to highlight that Kingdom Come Deliverance, while I don't believe the first one was very well received, I'm fairly certain that they just announced a second one. Yeah, here we go. End of 2024. I'm pretty sure, 8 days ago, they had announced it. Twice as big as the original. I remember when the first one came out, I was really excited because it seemed like a setting that I would enjoy, but I heard that it was reviewed terrible, and so I decided it was not worth it to pay the money. So maybe now I should revisit it. Presumably the price has dropped, and since the second one is coming out soon, that might be one that would be pretty enjoyable to try. Notably, with the Lord of the Rings games, the recent additions to the IP have not been phenomenal. There was, I don't remember what it's called, but there was, well, obviously the Gollum one, which is just called Gollum. That one was terrible. And the other one that was released recently, I think it was called like the Dwarves of Moria or something. It was about the dwarves, and I know that one was not very well received either. So Lord of the Rings is currently quite lacking in the video game department. You know what I think would be interesting, and I don't think that they would ever do it, but it would be really fun for me if they remade Lord of the Tings. If they remade this video game, Lord of the Rings Conquest. We had it on PS3, and it was just a stupid, man, I don't even know, like, what type of game, like, what the genre would be. Like a fighting game. I know that this has, like, a very specific, what am I trying to say? Like, this style of PvP has a description that I can't. Aided by Weta Digital. So there's a chance that they could published by EA. Never mind. Probably not then. They wouldn't remake it then. But Weta Digital, I know that they recently just did there was a Lord of the Rings game that came out in the past couple days where Weta, it was like a game based on the Shire or something. Miramar. I'm getting distracted. That's the name of Maximilian, the first former emperor of Mexico. That was the name of his private estate. I don't know. I just didn't expect that. Back to the article here. We have this quote. "This is the start of a new chapter." Actually, I'm just going to read this whole thing. So this is from Lars Vingefors. Vingefors? I'm pretty sure. I don't know. I think I don't know if he's Swedish, but I know that the Embracer Group itself is Swedish, and I don't know how they pronounce their W's. I sort of assumed it was like the V, but I guess maybe that's just German. I don't know. So this is the former CEO of the Embracer Group, and I guess I don't know what his official position title would be, but he is going to maintain a leadership role in the three individual companies. He says, quote, "This move has been made with the intention to unleash the full potential of each team and provide them with their own leadership and strategic direction. This is the start of a new chapter, a chapter that I intend to remain part of as an active, committed, and supportive shareholder of all three new entities with an evergreen horizon." That's a long sentence. So I guess I don't know if he has an official title, like if he is, I don't know, but clearly, obviously, large shareholder. I know previously he was the largest shareholder of the Embracer Group. I think it says it somewhere here. Yeah, largest shareholder. So I don't know if he's going to remain like a majority shareholder of these three individual companies, or if he just has a controlling share, or what the division is going to be there. The partitioning, I suppose. I don't know if that's the correct word, but it feels right. Oops, didn't mean to go up. This move towards three independent companies reinforces Embracer's vision of backing entrepreneurs and creators with a long-term mindset, allowing them to continue to deliver unforgettable experiences for gamers and fans across the globe, end quote. Let's hope, at least. Embracer has officially let go of 1,387 staff since its high-profile restructuring began in June last year. Embracer's total headcount had reduced by 904, during the second quarter of its financial year. Then by another 480. Oh, I see. Let go. I'm sorry. I read that and then I didn't process. I thought that was the total number of staff, and I was like, this doesn't add up, but that's my bad. 904 during the second quarter, then by another 483 in the third quarter. That amounted to 8% of the group's global workforce. The company also canceled 29 unannounced games during the 2 quarters. Wow, 29, that's so many. Embracer Group's financial struggles began following the collapse of a $2 billion deal, reportedly with Saudi government-funded company Savvy Games Group. The Swedish firm has since come under fire for the sweeping cuts that followed its acquisition spree. In January, it emerged that Embracer had canceled a new Deus Ex game that was 2 years in development and laid off some staff at Eidos, Montreal. I don't know, man. Some studios that Embracer Group has shut down so far are Saints Row developer Volition and Time Splitters developer Free Radical Design. Okay, so there's two things. I think this last article makes me really this last paragraph makes me really angry. And I guess it didn't quite set in the first time that I had read it, but I had forgotten that there was the Deus Ex game that they had decided to cancel. I love the Deus Ex games. Machina was one of my favorite games on. I think at that time we had it. It was on the Xbox 360, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Deus Ex Machina. No, not Machina. It's Mankind Divided. That was dumb. My bad. Deus Ex Machina is the literary device. Let's see. Oh no, PlayStation 4, Windows, and Xbox One. I didn't realize that this game had come out so soon. So I guess I played it on PS4. Human Revolution might have been. Yeah, okay, no, I'm all messed up. I'm all messed up. Human Revolution was the one that I had played on Xbox 360 that I had enjoyed so much. I think I played part of Mankind Divided, but I don't actually think I finished it. But Human Revolution was so fun. So I was really sad when they had announced the sequel game and then ended up canceling it. That really irritated me. There's been so much like bipolar news coming out of Embracer over these last couple years. Obviously with the what the article describes as the spree of acquisitions. They bought so many properties that we were so excited for. Obviously the Deus Ex game, Volition with the Saints Row. I mean, we've talked about Saints Row before on the podcast, but it bears repeating. Saints Row 3 is easily one of my favorite games of all time. It was so much fun to play. It was so irreverent. I don't know. It was just great in every way. So man, I wish I downloaded the remastered version on the PS5, and it didn't feel the same. But the story is so good. I really love the gameplay mechanics of it. I know that the most recent addition to the franchise did not go over well, such that I don't really want to play it because, Saints Row 4 was not exactly the most amazing game, but it was incredibly fun to play. And so I don't want to, make myself sad, I guess, by playing a game that I know is not good at all. One of the other acquisitions that the company had made, but has since split from, which we mentioned earlier, is Saber Interactive. Saber Interactive was the company that was developing the Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic remake. The original, I never played, but it's widely regarded. I know the story of it. It's widely regarded as one of the great games of the era. Would that have been late 90s? Let's see. Knights of the Old Republic. When did this come out? Oh, early 2000s, 2003. I should know this because I've looked this up about 1,000,001 times over the various episodes. I don't know. But let's get into this article as it relates to the Embracer Group. This is also by Wesleyan Poole for IGN. I didn't even realize that before. But Saber Interactive splits from Embracer, taking 38 video game projects with it. This broke a month ago, little over a month ago. Month and a week. Month and just about 2 weeks, about a month and a half. Let's end it there. So Saber Interactive has split from Embracer with at least 38 ongoing game development projects among the divested assets and over 3,000 staff moving across. However, a number of key studios remain at Embracer, including Tripwire, Aspyr, and Beamdog. Tripwire has since, left. Let's see, what do we got? Yeah, I don't know. This was not involved in either of these, the article really in the divestment that we talked about here, or I suppose these happened at different times. The deal is initially valued at $247 million, with the buyer named as Beacon Interactive, a company set up and controlled by Saber Interactive co-founder Matthew Karch. As a result, Embracer has ceased all operations in Russia. It appears jobs were secured as part of the main deal. So does Saber Interactive have a lot of operations in Russia, I guess? I'd never thought about that before, I guess. I wasn't expecting that. There are a number of interesting points in the deal. For example, Beacon Interactive has the option right to acquire Metro developer 4A Games and pinball developer Zen Studios for a fixed price within a certain time period. According to Bloomberg reporter Jason Schreier, Beacon Interactive has indeed decided to buy both studios. Long-term license and publishing rights to all current and future PC and console games in the Metro franchise are held within the Embracer operative group Plaion. Plaion, Embracer said. So this was briefly mentioned in the first article. Plaion is included in Middle-earth Enterprises and Friends, so they will continue to be the, that's the wrong tab. The publishing rights and licensing for all games within the Metro franchise. Notably, 4A Games is still included in this article under Middle-earth Enterprises and Friends. Man, I should just close that tab. I keep going back to Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic for some reason. I don't know what the time period it says here is. presumably longer than a month. I would assume like a year is how long. But I think it's interesting that they've announced that, and yet, I mean, we're still including it here. I don't know. Have they gone over this? I wonder if they have a plan for acquiring the studio, if they have a timetable set in place. Man, I forgot that this was in this article. The studios and their owned or licensed IP, now a part of Beacon. Wait, sorry, let me restart that whole sentence. The studios and their owned or licensed IPs, now a part of Beacon Interactive, are all Saber-branded studios: Nimble Giant, which produces Star Trek Infinite; Digic, a 3D animation studio; Saber Interactive Incorporated, Warhammer 40k, Space Marine 2, and the Knights of the Old Republic remake; Fractured Byte, a support studio; Sandbox Strategies, a PR agency; Madhead Games, Scars Above; Slipgate, which Kingpin Reloaded, and Graven; New World Interactive, which produced Insurgency, Day of Infamy, Insurgency Sandstorm; and 3D Realms produces Ion of Fury. Insurgency Sandstorm, Spencer and I tried to play that one for a little while, and it did not go over well. Embracer will retain the following studios and companies. That's just restating what we went over in the last article, so I'm going to ignore that for now. While Saber Interactive is split from Embracer, Embracer itself retains future publishing rights to 14 Saber games already in the works, including 2 joint projects with Beacon Interactive. They are the next AAA game from Metro developer 4A Games, an unannounced concept phase AAA game, a previously announced AAA game based on a major license, so this is either Warhammer 40k, Space Marine 2, or the Knights of the Old Republic remake, a new AAA multiplayer shooter based on a controlled IP, a new double A game based on an Asmodee IP, a new AA game from 34 Big Things based on an owned IP, Killing Floor 3, Tear Down, I guess, the full upcoming pipeline and back catalog from Zen Studios, Aspire, and Tripwire. Now, in the previous article, it was in the previous article that it said Embracer had canceled plans for 29 games. I wonder if any of these games are involved in those cuts. I wouldn't think so, since this is obviously a joint venture between Saber, Beacon, and Embracer, but it doesn't say. There's a possibility, obviously. I don't know. I would think that the games that Embracer canceled, the 29 unannounced games, would have been ones that they fully retained the rights to. But I hope it's not. I mean, of any of these, it seems like it would be the most likely that it would be the unannounced concept phase AAA game or a new AAA multiplayer shooter based on a controlled IP. Those are the ones that are the most ambiguous, that I feel would have been on the chopping block. I wouldn't imagine, but it is, I suppose, worth keeping in mind. Perhaps. I mean, I don't know what the extent of like the deals that those two companies would have to make to do a joint venture. If it's the type of thing where Embracer could, or if it's in the contract that Embracer like has the option to pull out unilaterally, or if there is some clause that prevents that from happening. The rest of this article, they just recap stuff that we already talked about in the other article. And they talk about, I mean, so this article was written before Gearbox was even sold to Take-Two. I do also want to note that Saber Interactive just recently gave an update on the Knights of the Old Republic remake, and I believe all they had to say really was that it's alive and well, and they still plan on making it. But that's really all we've heard. It's still likely going to be a couple of years out. I don't know. I mean, the splitting up of the companies is weird to me. I don't know. It seems to me, I feel like the fact that Lars Vingefors is staying like a majority shareholder or having a controlling interest in these three companies, I don't know. It just feels like we're getting into like there's something shady in the the back end going on here. Like there was something going on with the rights. Obviously, they've had a tumultuous time, and I know that Asmodee is taking on a large portion of the debt, which is not written in this article, it's in a separate article I read. But Asmodee, the board game studio, the tabletop games publisher, is taking on the majority of the debt from the Embracer group. I don't know. I just feel like in the back room, with the banking institutions and these massive companies, I feel like there's some shady stuff going on, but I don't know. It's just a gut feeling. I feel like in the long run, I feel like in 2 years, these companies are probably not going to last. This whole saga has just been so, well, I guess IGN described it really well. Embattled game company Embracer Group. This has been quite the tumultuous saga, right? There's been a lot going on here. They've faced a lot of massive uphill battle, and I feel like they're just trying to crawl their way out of it, and I find it unlikely that they're going to be able to do it in a way where everybody comes out clean. And that's unfortunate because I think it definitely delayed, a lot of the projects that I wanted to see. Obviously, they outright canceled the Deus Ex game. Presumably, there's obviously no way to prove or disprove this, but I partially feel as though if there weren't this weird saga in the middle, by this point we would already have the Knights of the Republic remake. Maybe we would have already had a Borderlands sequel, right? I just feel like these couple years with the trajectory that this company has taken have really set back a lot of the IPs that I would really like to see. But at this point, it's like, I don't know. Can you blame? Is there like a way to reasonably put blame here? I know that many people are unhappy with Lars Vingefer's direction and his tenure as CEO, if you will. I know that it's been highly controversial, but I don't know much about the actual nitty gritty of what's going on here. I don't know if truly this is him or if there's extenuating circumstances. I don't know. I just hope that splitting up the Embracer Group into 3 separate companies, I just really hope that turns out well. And we get to see something actually come out of these, hundreds of acquisitions, right? This massive aggregation of these studios. I hope we actually get to see some projects coming out of here soon. Especially from the Middle Earth Enterprises and friends. I really want a good Lord of the Rings game, a good action adventure RPG. It's maybe single player, third person. I don't know, like third person. I don't know how you do it. Maybe you just do it like Skyrim and just make it just like Lord of the Rings. I don't know, whatever. But I just want to see more Lord of the Rings properties. I think there's so much there to explore. There's so much there that has not really been fully utilized, and so hopefully this partitioning of these studios and the breaking up and divestment of these assets, hopefully it leads to some progress further along down the road. But, only time will tell, and so we'll just have to wait. But we will be here to let you know of any new updates that come out of Embracer, Saber Interactive, any of these other companies. Make sure that you subscribe and leave a like down below. Comment your thoughts. Tell us what you think about splitting up the Embracer Group. If you think that there's any shady business deals going on, let me know what project you would like to see come out first from this. If you want it to be a Lord of the Rings one. If you, like me, are just excited to see these companies get away from Embracer so that we can see Borderlands 4 or whatever they decide to do. See the Knights of the Old Republic remake. If you want to see, I don't know, something, the next Goat Simulator, Deep Rock Galactic, let me know what you think. What games are you excited for in this new landscape? We're going to leave it there. We'll be back next Monday for a brand new segment, and we'll see you all then.